Morning Meeting, brought to you by Verizon. Stay connected to your Patriots at home and on the go with Fios Quantum Internet and NFL Mobile from Verizon. That's powerful.
Well, guys, all week Paul was telling us that the Colts had no chance, and he was spot on. The Colts had no chance. Patriots just, it was embarrassing.
You didn't really believe they had a chance. You tried to work yourself up. I know that you were with me. I know deep down, Fred, you were with me, and you just didn't want to say it.
Well, I would
Andy was with me. He said it. He wasn't afraid.
I think most of the world was with you.
I know.
I would
it's
love
not exactly like it was controversial.
to say I was really with you and that I was right, but I was wrong. I thought the Colts, even though I thought the Patriots would win, let's not get crazy here.
I thought it would be 45-17.
I thought the Colts defense was going to put up more of a battle than they did, and they just didn't.
Well, you were wrong.
Yeah, I was wrong.
Dead wrong.
Happily.
Because this game was just like the previous Colts games. Yeah, they hung around a little bit in the first half, and the score was probably a little closer than you might like, but they weren't that good. They weren't competitive. You know the big difference in this game? Andrew Luck was terrible. He could not complete a pass to save his life, and they needed the exact opposite. They needed Andrew Luck to be basically perfect if they were going to pull off the upset.
Right.
They turned the ball over early. They let a punt bounce off Josh Cribbs' face. Fleming catches it. They never had a chance in this game, ever, and then the Patriots just stomped on them with the running game and scoring quickly in the second half like they've done every time.
Yeah.
It's a series. I describe it like this. Your SATs, they do those little number series where, this one's 25, this one's what's next in the series? Well, they blow them out 40-something to 20-something. You know what was next? They weren't getting to 20 this time.
Yeah, we had looked at, I had looked at some of the Colts games since the Patriots in Week 11, and they looked like they had shown improvement, particularly on defense.
Against teams that didn't have their best players.
Well, that's the thing. The
Patriots are healthy.
You have to put it in context.
The Patriots are healthy. Cincinnati and Denver weren't, and I think that's the biggest difference as to why you maybe were a little bit more impressed with the defense. But the other thing that I got back to, and this is why I felt so strongly about it, is just the matchup is not a good one for Indianapolis. I think the Patriots are able to run the ball against the Colts, unlike they are really against anybody else. They don't run for that kind of yardage against anybody but Indianapolis. So there's got to be something there that this offensive line matches up so well with that smaller front. They pushed him around, even though Arthur Jones was back. It was basically the same stuff. 177 yards?
Something like that. 148 for Blunt.
Yeah,
they did better against him. It was 166 and 4 touchdowns last postseason. It was only 148 and 3 touchdowns this year. They're getting better.
But, even throughout the season, the Colts had consistently been able to get pressure on quarterbacks. They do it through blitzing, but whatever. They get to quarterbacks. I thought in this game, Brady had really no trouble at all.
That's another matchup problem because you can't blitz Brady. So they're able to get pressure by blitzing against some other guys. You do that to Brady, and you're not going to live a long time to tell about it.
They did a decent job against Gronk, but Julian Edelman was there to convert third downs when they needed to. On defense, Revis was hit himself, and Arrington, I think, did a great job on T.Y. Hilton again.
That's another weird matchup. You're talking about the only time the Patriots run is against the Colts. Well, not the only time Kyle Arrington looks good, but one of the great performances he seems to get up for, match up well with, is T.Y. Hilton. That's a big play receiver, a leading receiver on an NFL team, a #1 receiver, and this is your third slot corner who now 2 times in a row has done a really nice job taking him out of the game with help. They have McCourty over the top, they do some different things, but everything that the Patriots wanted to do, basically, they did. They couldn't be stopped in any area where they wanted to succeed.
I thought McCourty was pretty good in this game, too. I thought that he served as one of those center fielder types that didn't just give help to T.Y. Hilton over the top. He was able to get himself in position where he was taking away multiple guys, and Luck had to be perfect. The one throw that they made down the field was just perfect. It was a perfect throw from Luck and an incredible catch by Hilton. That's what it took to move the ball consistently against the Patriots that night. That was the only scoring drive.
I was just going to say,
you're not going to be able to get by with that.
And had it not been for a bunch of stupid penalties on that drive, it would have been a shutout for the Patriots. So
certainly could have been.
The question is, what is the Patriots defense? Is it the one we saw against the Ravens, or is it the one we saw last week? And what will it be going forward against the Seahawks? Because I think that's the key. It's the Patriots' defense.
Well, and for me, it's the pass defense you really look at, because against the Ravens, they didn't look very good, I didn't think. I thought they struggled a little bit. Even Revis struggled a little bit early. And then they come out against what's supposed to be the best passing offense in the NFL, the #1 ranked passing offense by Andrew Luck. And they just absolutely shut him down, dominated him. Now, the talent's not elite, but there's a lot of weapons in there that he can spread it out and do different things. They just never let him do it. I thought Ninkovich actually had a decent game in terms of some pressure. He was sort of, I think, kind of spying him, but also rushing, sort of being, that controlled rush they talk about. But I don't know. I think the defense we saw is more like the Patriots defense. I think we had convinced ourselves of that in sort of November, December, and then we were shaken a little bit by the Ravens game. But I think they're a good defense.
All right, well, if that's true, then we're in for one heck of a game coming up in 2 weeks.
Number 71, reporting as an eligible receiver. Number 34, he's ineligible. Nate Solder's catching touchdowns. I'm not really sure what all of this means, but I do know this. It's causing problems for the opposition. John Harbaugh was upset about it. Chuck Pagano spent time talking to Harbaugh about all of those formations, and what it took away was preparation time for the opponent. They're not worried about what the Patriots are doing traditionally on offense, and they haven't been able to stop Tom Brady and the rest of that offense. I don't know what it's going to be this week. Pete Carroll is calling it good coaching, and that's exactly what it is, because anytime you're worried about formations and whether or not they're legal, you're not spending enough time worrying about stopping the opponent. Really big game Sunday night from Rob Ninkovich. He's been a little bit quiet, I think, the second half of the season. Not as many big plays as we're accustomed to from the defensive end, but I thought Andrew Luck really had trouble finding out where Ninkovich was and what he was going to do. We saw him very active up front. We saw him putting pressure on the passer. I thought he got the ball out of Luck's hands a few times earlier than he wanted to. And he also got in passing lanes, almost had a couple of interceptions. Knocked a pass down, was really in the way of a little short pass to Jack Doyle. Rob Ninkovich, that's the kind of playmaking ability that he brings to the defense. We haven't seen it a lot lately. They're going to need it against Seattle as well. We talked earlier in the show about the health of the Patriots' big three, Brady, Gronk, and Revis. They're all going to be big parts of the Super Bowl. They're all going to be healthy going into the Super Bowl, and that's a big plus, because that hasn't been the case with the stars in recent years. But it is PFW, so I am worried. I'm always worried about something, and I'm a little bit worried about Rob Gronkowski. I don't think the production has been quite as high the last few weeks, and I think he's probably dealing with some health issues. We know he has a lot of them. It looks to me like he's dealing with a bad back, because he's been a little bit slower, and the production has been down. Again, not a huge concern. He's probably at a much higher level heading into the Super Bowl now than he was back in 2011, but just something to keep an eye on.
Coming up on Patriots Football Weekly.
The running game is really good with Marshawn, but also Russell. Russell has some feet on him.
Patriots Football Weekly. Brought to you by Pepsi, official soft drink of the New England Patriots. Putnam. New ways of thinking for financial advisors, their clients, and institutions worldwide.
Image of the week from the AFC Championship win of the New England Patriots. Here is Nate Solder on his touchdown catch and run. A guy who's kind of flown under the radar this year is Sebastian Vollmer, but he has been solid throughout. Finally, who else do you want to see when it's party time than Gronk?
Player Perspective. Brought to you by Putnam Investments, pursuing performance excellence through new ways of thinking.
Joining me in the media workroom at Gillette Stadium this week is Patriots defensive lineman Chris Jones. And obviously the first question is, how excited are you to be going to the Super Bowl?
Super excited. Definitely a dream come true. You know, this is what we work for day in and day out, all throughout the year. And, you know, finally the work is paying off, and, you know, we are where we want to be right now.
In terms of personally, are the challenges this week kind of getting tickets and friends and family all settled before you can focus on football?
Yeah, I got all that settled. I'm glad we have to get it done so quickly, because then all we have to think about is playing against Seattle.
What was it like for you, AFC Championship game, Patriots win? I mean, you've had kind of an interesting year and a half where you were sort of on the bubble of being in the NFL, waivers, those types of things, and a year later, you're going to the Super Bowl. What did you reflect on that at all? Did that hit your mind at all?
Honestly, no, not until you just said that. But yeah, it's been a crazy ride. But you know, I've been very fortunate, and I'm blessed to be here. This is a great organization. I love my teammates. I love the coaches. Everything about being here, and you know, everybody worked really hard to get where we are right now, and you know, we're all really excited.
And now you're going to work hard again, because big challenge on the other side of the football is a team that likes to run the football. Marshawn Lynch. I know you're in the early stages here of preparation, but what do you see from that Seahawks offense?
Like you said before, the running game is really good with Marshawn, but also Russell. Russell has some feet on him, and obviously Russell's able to make a lot of plays with his arm. He's a great quarterback, and Marshawn is a beast. He runs the ball super hard, and their offensive line, from what I've seen so far, is pretty good. So we have a lot of challenges we gotta work through right now.
You mentioned Russell Wilson, his ability to run the football. I think when we talk about running quarterbacks a lot, we talk about linebackers, defensive ends, but as a defensive tackle, how does that affect how you prepare for a game when you do have a mobile quarterback and some of those read option things they can do?
Yeah, you know, and a lot of that for us is just hustle plays. There's usually not much we can do as a defensive tackle. Like if the quarterback keeps it, it's a lot of hustle. But as far as his mobility in the pocket, pass plays, that affects us a lot in our pass rush. So, you know, we know he can make plays with both his arm and his feet. So we got to take into consideration all that when we're preparing.
And obviously, personnel-wise, early in the year, you didn't have Alan Branch. Silver Salinga was on IR. What is that room like with obviously Vince as the leader, but you got some veterans, some young guys all mixed together?
I mean, Vince brings a ton to the table. Like you just said, leadership. You know, he's really, you know, the one who kind of sets us all straight. You know, and you know, to have, you know, Allen and Silver here now, those guys are huge as far as, you know, helping us with the run game and just being stout up front. And in the pass game also, those guys just, you know, push the pocket, they collapse the pocket, they do a lot of great stuff for us. So we're really fortunate to have them here, and you know, like I said before, we're all working together very well, and it's working out for us.
No matchups to talk about this week. We'll save that for next week when we really get into the game. So we're going to look back on some of the underrated performances that have landed the Patriots in Super Bowl 49. And we're going to start with the fullback position, James Devlin, with a big game against the Colts. Now, for a fullback, a big game is a 1-yard touchdown reception, which he rumbled through tacklers with that extra effort. And oh, by the way, helped Tom Brady reach the line of scrimmage at least and get a little bit past it on his QB sneaks with that little extra push that only a fullback can give. James Devlin, unsung hero. It's hard to say that a single play catapults you to a 45-7 blowout in the AFC Championship game, and certainly the offense and the defense were great against the Colts. But once again, the special teams kicked in with a big play that helped land you in the Super Bowl. This time, Darius Fleming. He was in the right place, right time, and had the right reflexes. Ryan Allen's punt, Josh Cribbs' forehead, ball is in the air, and boom, Darius Fleming catches it out of the air, sets up a short field for the Patriots, gives them the chance at that early touchdown, and a Colts team that needed perfection, couldn't make mistakes, gave the ball away. Darius Fleming, the kicking game, and a couple Julian Edelman punt returns. Third phase comes up big once again. Finally, we'll look to the sideline. We know what the coaches do on the sideline in terms of Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels. McDaniels gets head coaching interviews. But Matt Patricia is the unsung defensive coordinator of your New England Patriots. I thought he came up big against the Colts. Patriots dominated the Colts once again, had the perfect game plan against the NFL's #1 passing attack. They mixed it up in the back end. They trusted Kyle Arrington, Devin McCourty to deal with T.Y. Hilton. They got just enough pressure up front, controlled rush. Rob Ninkovich. Matt Patricia doesn't get enough love for the job he does and the job he allowed his defense to do against the Colts.
Coming up on Patriots Football Weekly.
Pete Carroll. I'm not sure if he has big cojones, but I think Pete Carroll will not wilt in the big game moment like I think the Packers might have.
Patriots Football Weekly is brought to you in part by Ace Ticket, the official travel partner of the Patriots. For information, call 1-800-MY-SEATS or visit aceticket.com. New England Football Night is presented by AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Two coaches couldn't be any more different than Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll. What they have in common, however, is that they win. One of the reasons is that they have their way of doing things and they stick to it. They are always true to who they are. In the case of Carroll, he was always known as a defensive expert. In fact, one of the big reasons Robert Kraft hired Carroll as his head coach was the recommendation of Bill Walsh, who couldn't say enough about Carroll's knowledge of that side of the ball. Obviously, we see how that knowledge has helped the Seahawks. He built that defense the way he wanted from the ground up. But what also shouldn't get lost in Carroll's success in Seattle is the offense. It was Carroll who took a chance on third-round pick Russell Wilson instead of free agent acquisition Matt Flynn, who everyone thought was the better quarterback. That worked out pretty well, too. Carroll believes in his instincts and his way of doing things, and who can argue?
What a mess we got going on out in the Bay Area. Not just Oakland either. This time, it's the San Francisco 49ers, who I believe have one of the most talented rosters in all of football. They just can't keep the egos out of the mix. They had to get rid of Jim Harbaugh because he couldn't get along well with others, doesn't play well with anybody else. Jed York had to get his puppet in there, the defensive line coach, Jim Tunsula. This, to me, reeks of one of those teams, although really talented and really skilled, that's going to end up winning nothing when all is said and done.
Back in the winter of 2004, I covered John Fox and the Carolina Panthers as they prepared to take on the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I enjoyed the week immensely. I began to really like John Fox. The only problem is, in the decades since then, I've also decided what John Elway decided. I'm not sure John Fox is the guy to get you over the hump. He can come in, bring stability to an organization, take you to the postseason, get you right on the cusp of a title, but I think that's where his talents run out. The Broncos moved on, and Fox has moved on to Chicago, who will be a better football team with John Fox than they were under Mark Trestman. But guess what? With John Fox and Jay Cutler, they won't win the Super Bowl. Because Fox is a nice guy, he can't win. Cutler's kind of a jerk, he can't win. It's a bad combo.
Trash Talk, brought to you by Waste Management. Remodeling or just have clutter to get rid of? Waste Management's new Baxter dumpster in a bag can take it on.
With the Packers' upset of Seattle in the final minutes of the NFC Championship game, the question is, did the Patriots miss an opportunity to get a better matchup in the Super Bowl, Paul Perillo?
I really don't think they did. I don't think it really matters all that much. I know Patriots fans were treating that game as if they were almost rooting for the Patriots. They were rooting so hard for Green Bay. I think Seattle is the slightly better team, but I think both of these teams are pretty good. And in my opinion, honestly, 6-1, half dozen the other.
Well, obviously, most of the time this time of year, aside from the Colts, good teams play on the championship weekend. I do think that the Packers are a better matchup for the Patriots. I think you don't have that swarming, violent defense that can dominate an offense and dominate an offensive line like I think Seahawks can when they're playing well. That's what people miss is Seahawks didn't play all that well early in that game against the Packers. Right. Packers took advantage. And I also think you have a little bit of that feeling out factor that, yes, you played them in the middle of the season in Green Bay, so you probably would feel a little more confident based on what you did there heading into a neutral site game in the Super Bowl. I think the Packers would have been a better matchup.
Yeah, but I think that Green Bay would have benefited as well from the first matchup because they knew that they were as good as the Patriots. Matter of fact, they probably think they were better than the Patriots because they won the game at Lambeau Field. So I think sometimes, you know, when teams go in and they play the Patriots as the big bad New England Patriots, they have a little fear or doubt in their minds as to how they're going to match up. I'm not saying that Seattle will have that kind of fear. That's not the kind of team that they have. But you know Green Bay wouldn't have because Green Bay already beat the Patriots. So some of that aura maybe that New England brings into a big game would have been lost. And again, I think it's just a different kind of matchup. I agree with the way you described Seattle. Green Bay is not that kind of team, but they can throw the ball, they can run it a little bit, and their defense is pretty good. The defense has played really well in the postseason. They played really well against New England. So, again, I don't see much of a difference.
You often teach me, and you teach me a lot, Paul. I'm very lucky.
I do. I try.
That you got to have cojones to beat Bill Belichick and the Patriots in a big game, and sometimes that shows up in going for it, punting, doing different things. And I think you saw from Mike McCarthy, not sure how big his cojones are. I think he tightened up a little bit in that game, wasn't willing to go for it, put himself out there, put his team out there.
Can't argue with that.
And I think the Bill Belichick would have dominated Mike McCarthy in that way. Pete Carroll, I'm not sure if he has big cojones, if he's a little dumb, if he doesn't know any better, but I think Pete Carroll will not wilt in the big game moment like I think the Packers might have and McCarthy might have.
I just have visions on the sideline of Pete Carroll, and this is probably just a bias for me, but, you know, before I started working here, actually the last year that Pete was here was my first year, and I just saw a guy that seemed to get overwhelmed by the moment a lot. He seemed like not always in control.
How many titles has that guy won since he left that sideline?
One.
Well, the USC ones count.
I don't count.
I know they took him away, but I remember him. I watched him.
I don't count when you exceed the salary cap. You got to do it within the rules.
He's a championship level coach. He doesn't wilt in the moment, and he's better than the Packers.
Tonight's show is brought to you in part by Fisher Plows. Locked and loaded for New England's wicked winter weather. Patriots Football Weekly, brought to you by Pepsi, official soft drink of the New England Patriots.
All right, question time here in PFW. These are the ones you sent us at askpfw@patriots.com. And this first one comes from Remy. And he or she, I don't know. The question is it legal to place all your receivers on the left side of the formation? This would force Sherman to play out of his comfort zone. If legal, I think the Patriots should try it.
It would also take the Patriots out of their comfort zone by taking away half the field. Sometimes Bill talks about that. You can do whatever you want, but sometimes you overthink it and affect yourself, have an adverse impact on what you're doing, and I think that would be that scenario. I know the Packers early in the year got some, criticism for not throwing over there, putting basically an extra receiver over there. sometimes you just got to play your offense. And look, the guy's coming off an injury, too. Let's not forget that. He has a sprained elbow. Yes, because he held it next to him the whole time.
The world knows.
The whole world knows. But he was almost surprised they didn't attack him last game. I think they will treat this like there's a good cornerback on the other side. We'll be smart about it. We're not going to force balls in his area. But I think if you do something like that, you're taking yourself out of your own offense.
All right. John writes in, I'm kind of feeling sorry for Brian Stork. The kid has been contributing out throughout the season. On the O-line, do you think he will end up on the bench in the greatest game of his life?
I have nothing to go on specifically, but I don't think he's going to end up on the bench because I think if they felt like he couldn't play, he'd already been placed on IR. I mean, you saw them make a roster move right before the game last week with Joe Villano and Steve Maneri. I don't know for sure how that knee is for Stork. I do think that he's going to have a legitimate shot to play against Seattle. At the very least, I think he can be, he's going to practice it and they're going to give it a go. Now, whether or not he's able to, and I understand the point. He did play all year, and to get hurt at this time of year, no one likes to see that. But overall, big picture here, Patriots are pretty healthy heading into a Super Bowl, and that really hasn't been the case.
Yeah, he must have a shot because if they knew that he wasn't going to play, they'd have put him on IR.
Yeah.
So he has a shot. Keith writes in, I love the Patriots, but do Belichick and Brady realize how enormously embarrassing it is to many fans when they have the starters in a completely unnecessary time, as in last week when they ran it up? Oh, no.
That's not what it says.
No. The fourth quarter of that game was not the time to risk pointless injury to our stars, but I guess it was perfect opportunity to make the rest of the country hate the Patriots even more than they already do.
Yeah, I don't really care about the hate angle. I was actually complaining about this in the press box, but it was more about, you have the biggest game ever in 2 weeks. Why is Brady out there throwing the ball and taking hits? Now, I know the final play, you bring him out so you can take him off. It's a very NBA move.
I like that.
You give the crowd a chance to, but he was taking hits. He was taking hits late in that game, and I don't care about the embarrassment. The reason we're saying the Patriots are as set up as they've been in a long time is they're healthy. Brady, Gronkowski, Revis, those guys are healthy. Why is Brady out there to take hits? I don't understand it. I don't know what you gain from it. And you can get, Jimmy Garoppolo a couple snaps under some pretty bright lights. I don't understand it. I don't care about the hate. I care about the point of it.
The last pass he threw, I think, was a long pass to Julian Edelman. So
yes. And he took a big hit.
Take the target now, too. Julian Edelman had left that game earlier in the game with an injury. And I understand that he was well enough to go back in and he had a great game and all that, but why ask him to run down the field and catch a meaningless pass in a 45-7 game? It's a safety issue with me more than anything else. I agree.
Fred, you want to answer it? You usually defend that side of the argument.
It's football. Football players play football.
Good. On to Seattle.
All right. And we'll see you in Arizona next week.